In Ruth chapter 1, Ruth commits herself for life to her mother-in-law, Naomi. It is in Ruth that our rabbinic friends see the essence of chesed, what we would term loving kindness. Now today our focus is Ruth. Her sense of loving kindness is worthy on its own, but her ancestral link to Jesus makes her story one we should never forget. Ruth was the great-grandmother of King David. It was Ruth's journey from Moab to Bethlehem that led David to be born in Bethlehem, thereby causing Bethlehem to be the royal city, the city of the Messiah, which is forever linked to Jesus. But it is the compassion of Ruth, Ruth's identity with the poor, and Ruth's link to those seeking asylum that forever connect her to our Jesus. Let's take a look at the story. We're going to begin with Naomi, her husband, and their two sons fleeing Bethlehem because of severe famine. Their destination is the land of Moab on the other side of the Dead Sea. Now, most significantly, it was in Moab that the greatest leader the nation ever knew. It was there that Moses died. It was there that Moses could look across and could see the promised land, but could never enter it. It is ironic that Naomi and her family will now flee the promised land to return to the land that their ancestors wanted to escape. How desperate they were. They were about to leave the promised land for a land that might hold them in contempt. Now here's something else. The name Bethlehem means the house of bread. And Naomi and her family are in crisis precisely because the house of bread has no bread. This promised land is gone. Isn't it fascinating how biblical stories relate to our world? And this one does. Regardless of how we feel about today's immigration crisis, can we not feel compassion for today's refugees who repeat the story of Naomi? Like Naomi, today's refugees flee a homeland they once held dear due to national crisis. They've abandoned everything that they know, everything that they love for these shores, where so many of us sneer in contempt. Fellow citizens, where's our heart? Okay. Naomi's family are not treated with contempt. How about that? Instead, they dwell in Moab long enough that these two sons of theirs grow into men and actually embrace the Moabite culture to the level that they marry Moabite women. These sons are a new generation. These sons remind me of what I have learned from the Korean American students that I work with at Fuller Theological Seminary. In Korean American culture, they say there are three generations: Generation 1.0, Generation 1.5, and Generation 2.0. Generation 1.0 are those Koreans who left Korea when they were adults and come to these shores and tend to retain their Korean identity. Generation 1.5 are those Koreans who left the land when they were kids, grew up in the United States, and now have a foot in Korean culture and in American culture. And then there are Generation 2.0 Korean Americans. These are the kids. They were born in the United States, and they embrace American culture to the point that their grandparents don't really know what to do with them. To this, we all have something in common. Okay, Naomi and her husband. These are your 1.0 immigrants. 1.0 immigrants. They went to Moab as adults. Their sons, though, are Generation 1.5. They left when they were kids. But now they've grown up. And they've embraced the culture enough to marry the Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. And ladies and gentlemen, just in case you are wondering, yes, Oprah Winfrey's mother did name her after this Orpah. We got a tragedy in this story, though. There is no Generation 2.0. In rapid succession, Naomi's husband and her sons all die, leaving Naomi with those daughters-in-laws. Now, legally, Ruth and Orpah were bound to their mother-in-law. But Naomi is gracious enough that she says to the daughters-in-law, return to your family and to your gods. Naomi, though, as far as she goes, she's had it. She wants to go home. Now, how many of you were in the 11 o'clock service last Sunday morning? Yes. If you may remember, at the high point of the service, when the sacrament of Holy Communion was reaching its emotional and theological climax, it was then that a young child plaintively called out, "I want to go home." You know, we laughed, but we got it. Orpah goes home, not Ruth. She turns to her mother and says these words. Say them with me if you know it. Do not press me to leave you. Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people will be my people. Your God, my God. Where you die, I will die. Do we get that? Ruth is a Moabite woman ready to become a 1.0 generation immigrant. She's going to leave her people, her culture, and her faith to embrace everything that is new. In essence, she's telling her, Naomi, I'm going to purchase a Bethlehem condo, and it will contain a mother-in-law suite. She's saying, Naomi, I promise I will watch the Bethlehem PBS station looking for programs on Jewish culture. Naomi, I'm going to go to the community college and enroll in one of those Hebrew as a second language classes. And Naomi, I'm going to take a class in Judaism 101 because I planned on converting. So truly, your God, it's going to be my God. And Naomi, I'm going to stay with you until the day we die. Who'd like to hear those words? Can we imagine being Naomi? I've been thinking about what that must be like. And had I been Naomi, I would have broken into this chorus from the musical Scrooge. Ruth, say it with me, Yvonne. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. That's the nicest thing that anyone's ever done for me. It sounds a bit bizarre, the way the things they are. I feel as if another life's begun for me. I wasn't waiting for that, but thank you anyway. Okay, Naomi, though, apparently she is not a fan of popular musicals. But did you notice that she says not even one word of thanks to Ruth? Here's what the Bible says happened, and I quote, When Naomi saw that Ruth was determined to go with her, she said no more. Something's going on. And here's what it is. Okay, reverse journey. Moab to Bethlehem. The whole town comes out and everybody starts whispering, is this really Naomi? I think they're doing a lot more than saying, boy, she sure got old. I say that because I've gone to my fair share of high school reunions. Who's ever gone to one of those? Yeah. What I find intriguing is that though I often forget the names, somehow the faces are still there. Do you know what I mean? It's not the face of Naomi that's changed. It's her spirit. This is one broken woman. Life has slammed her. Any others identify with her? Okay, people ask, is this Naomi? And oh my, this is more profound than we might realize. In Hebrew, the name Naomi means sweet and pleasant. This Naomi is not sweet and pleasant. Mrs. Sweet has changed her name. And so she says, don't call me Naomi. I'm not sweet. Call me Mara. I'm bitter. I left here full. I left here with a husband and sons. I now return empty. And had I been Ruth at that moment, I certainly would have said, hey, Naomi, what about me? What am I, chopped liver? Ruth is not me. Ruth holds her tongues. 1,300 years before the Apostle Paul was ever a glimmer in his parents' eyes, Ruth demonstrated, if you know these words, say them with me. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love believes all things. Love hopes all things. Love never ends. It is Ruth who sees beyond the bitter Mara and remembers the sweet Naomi. Ruth commits to stay with her until this broken Mara becomes the sweet Naomi that God created her to be. So yeah, folks, let's read Ruth at weddings. Weddings are occasions when we declare our love and declare our commitment to each other, and I am so delighted that finally, in the world of today, everyone in this room, every one of us who falls in love, every one of us who wants to commit ourselves in love, can now do so. Ain't that good news? Are there really people like Ruth? Yeah. I know of such a person. 38 years ago, when my dad was 55 years old, he died of a heart attack. My dad and my mom were pharmacists. My dad went to work in the morning. He felt poorly in the afternoon. He came home and he died that night. It was devastating for our family, especially for my mother. My parents were looking forward to what lay ahead, but now everything was taken from them. My mom had to go on. She had to get up and go to work. But getting up in the morning and facing a day without my dad was not a day worth embracing. So Mrs. Bacon stepped in. She's Ruth. Every morning at 6 o'clock in the morning, Mrs. Bacon would call my mom and say, "Helen, it's time to get up." And every morning for month after month, Mrs. Bacon did so. Until there came that morning when my mom could say to Mrs. Bacon, "Lydia, you don't need to call me anymore. I can get up on my own." I've had some Naomi moments, a lot of them, come to think about it. And I've been down, I've been really down. And when I'm at my lowest, I sense people are looking at me and saying, "Is that Frank?" But I've also had some wonderful Ruths. These are the ones who understand what grief and worry do to us. Yet these people hang in there. They stay with us. They love us. They are the spirit of a song in which we will sing, "I will weep when you are weeping. When you laugh, I'll laugh with you."